José Manuel Barroso will in part measure the success of his stewardship of the European Commission on whether or not the Treaty of Lisbon is passed by the EU's 27 members. He wants this as a convinced pro-European and as a Portuguese citizen. Also central to the Barroso Commission is its placing of Africa at the heart of foreign policy. He spoke to EuroNews on the fringes of the EU-Africa summit.
Mr.
President, welcome to EuroNews. What can the EU's citizens expect from this treaty? How is it different to the EU Constitution?
Et quelles sont les différences avec la Constitution européenne?
It's
above all an institutional treaty that makes the workings of the EU more efficient, democratic and coherent in foreign policy. It's an improvement on existing treaties. It doesn't help to compare the Lisbon document, a reforming and modifying treaty, to the Constitution, because there was no agreement on the latter. What's most important for Europe is that the political will exists, that it's understood we can only reach our goals and get the results we want if we really forge a practical, working European Union.
Réussir nos résultats que nous voulons si on fait véritablement une union dans la pratique.
Pourquoi pour un citoyen qui a dit non?
Why should a citizen who said no to the Constitution expect this treaty to work?
Pourrait fonctionner.
S'il a dit non,
if they rejected the Constitution because it was seen as containing the mechanisms of a constitutional state, they may be more at ease, that depends.
Avec des mécanismes constitutionnels, là, maintenant, il sera peut-être plus rassuré.
There will be others who are happy that now we have defences for the public service sector. The Lisbon Treaty is no great revolution, but it's significant progress compared to today.
Par rapport à la situation actuelle, mais ce n'est pas la grande révolution.
So it's a mini treaty?
Non.
No, I don't accept that label, and I don't like it.
Je n'aime pas cette expression. D'ailleurs, je l'ai dit lorsqu'on
I've already said when speaking about this, I said it to President Sarkozy, that it would be better not to talk about any mini-treaty. And he kindly agreed not to use the expression again. Perhaps at the start of the debate, the most convinced pro-Europeans didn't use all the positive arguments they could have. Some of the leaders took overly defensive positions, that's true.
Trop défensif, ça c'est vrai.
Which leaders?
Je vais pas rentrer maintenant dans
I don't want to get into criticising, but it's true that, I've already said, it's a political responsibility to face up to European as well as national issues.
D'être capable de faire face aux questions européennes aussi sur le plan national.
Est-ce qu'à votre avis, il y a
In your opinion, do you think there's a revival of commitment among Europe's citizens after several difficult years?
Nous avons maintenant les résultats.
At the moment, the EU is performing its best for 8 years. In some cases, 15, like in Denmark. But not only in Denmark, Poland is producing some extraordinary results. In terms of EU support, France is much better today than 3 years ago, because I believe the leadership there has started to say, we can't agree on everything, but we are all for Europe.
Pas être d'accord ici ou là, mais nous sommes pour l'Europe. Vous rappelez le 10.
You remember on the 14th of July, President Sarkozy suggested making the national holiday a European one too. That's extraordinary. That's what I want from Europe's leaders. Commitment to Europe.
C'est ce que je demande aux leaders européens. Engageons-nous pour l'Europe.
Are you expecting any stumbles on the road to full ratification?
Il y aura toujours la possibilité.
Those who want to demonstrate their opposition are always free to, either in Parliament or in a referendum, like the upcoming one in Ireland.
Dans le référendum qui est prévu, au moins en Irlande. Mais je
However,
crois
I believe that there's a very high probability that ratification will succeed, and I'm very happy about that.
La ratification assurée, et je m'en réjouis.
Le Darfour. Si le président al-Bashir prend son temps.
If Sudan's President al-Bashir takes his time and doesn't cooperate in ending the Darfur crisis, should the West and the international community intervene unilaterally, like it did in Kosovo in 1999?
Intervenir comme on a fait déjà lors par exemple du conflit du Kosovo en 99.
Bon, je crois effectivement que ce ne serait
Well, I don't think that's the answer. The situation in Darfur is extremely complex. It's not as simple as...
situation aussi simple que celle...
Simple's not exactly the term, but what you had in Kosovo was Serb nationalist aggression against the Kosovan people. In Sudan, everyone's fighting everyone else. Several rebel groups fight each other at the same time as they fight the government. And the government's at war with everyone.
Il y a plusieurs groupes de rebelles qui se font la guerre entre eux. et qui font aussi la guerre contre le gouvernement, et le gouvernement fait la guerre contre tout. Enfin, c'est...
The situation's so complex that I don't think that intervention, which looks simple, will be easy at all. This is why we're taking a serious and responsible approach, why the EU's beefing up its diplomatic efforts at the United Nations and taking a tougher line.
Sérieuse et responsable, c'est d'avoir une présence plus forte, plus musclée, plus robuste des Nations Unies, c'est-à-dire une mission qui
Our mission is working with our African partners, and the African Union's force is also present. In other words, what President al-Bashir promised.
Al-Bashir nous a promis.
Europe says it wants a new approach in African relations, above all in development. Are all the African nations ready to accept this?
Est-ce que tous les pays africains sont prêts à accepter ça?
Relations between Africa and Europe are different to those between Africa and China. Links with China are weaker. There's very little human contact, whereas there are genuine human contacts with Europe. In terms of trade, Europe is way ahead. Africa's #1 market in all areas, from agriculture to any other sector. Europe is Africa's #1 aid donor. It's true that there's hard bargaining sometimes. Some always want more, which is normal. But we import more from Africa than all the world's other developed nations together. And what we give out is real aid, and not simply long-term soft loans.
Thank you, Mr. President.